Oh, okay. Just this will be our pattern session. Okay, yes, ma, it is. This is all right, ma. Thank you. You're welcome. This is my noche. We'll grow up on your oh my gosh. Are you serious?
because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, Namukwa, Osinachi. One man, Osinachi, I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, Mama, Osinachi.
Internet slow, usually short this man. Otherwise, internet slow. So working before I'm so even on I'm already using my old social. Don't worry. I'm using my own social. Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, Namukwa, Osinachi. One man, Osinachi, I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, Mama, Osinachi.
The fourth is our E4. Yes, and then
Hi, Lucky. Good to have you here. How are you today? Hi, Botswana.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. And yourself?
I'm good. Thank you.
I'm actually experiencing load shedding where I am. So,
No, it's fine. It's virtual conferencing, and sometimes you're out of the house or somewhere else. It's fine.
Yeah. So I tried to improve my connectivity, and also I think I should caution people in the room that where I am, I'm just like I'm actually next to the church, so there are people singing outside. So please also, you know this situation of load shedding.
I know, okay. But good to have you, and thank you for being part of this panel.
Okay, thank you so much.
We'll start shortly. I think we're waiting for 2 more panelists, and then we'll begin.
So good afternoon, everybody. So this is section 2F, and on the Fringes of the Subaltern Celebrity in Africa Studies 1. We have 2 of the panelists online already, so we just want to take some few minutes to wait for the meeting to and then start. So while we are waiting, you can move to the seats before you and please help us to do the volume of your phone so it does not disrupt or distract the session. Thank you so much.
Hi, Chidima.
Yes, ma'am.
How you doing? Okay, I'll just go ahead and start while the other person joins us later in the program. I'd like to especially welcome everyone to this panel on the Fringes of Fame, Subaltern Celebrities in Africa. My name is Rosemary Onilola Pokuola. I earned my first PhD in International Relations from Covenant University, and I'm currently affiliated with the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So here is the order of the program for today. I will give a preliminary remarks about the questions and the issues that animate my interest in celebrity studies. Afterwards, I'm gonna read the short bio of every of the presenters, and because most of the one of the presenters is not here, we may not present in the order that appears on the program. So about celebrity studies, I studied celebrity studies as part of my first PhD at Covenant University, where I had examined, how the various forms of social capitals are mobilized to sort of advocate for social change broadly. And so going forward from that, I also became interested in how cultural producers sort of marshal and navigate the politics and the economics of attention. And that had expanded into different research for me, articles and maybe books someday. And so part of my own interest is also galvanizing other researchers around the globe to look at how the politics of attention sort of operates in their various regions across Africa, whether it's in Southern Africa, as Lucky will tell us later, or in West Africa, as Chidima will speak of later. I'm interested broadly in what some people would even call the mathematics of fame. That is how algorithm and digital media and all of that really shape who gets known and unknown, and how people sort of use this popularity either for their own self-aggrandizement or even for social issue. Having said that, I will just go ahead and then introduce the first speaker by reading a short bio. Now, usually LSA panels are 4 presenters in each panel, but for some reasons, we only have 3 presenters for today. Also, I'd like to remind that this panel is in twofold. This is part 1 and part 2 will happen tomorrow. Also, I have a non-academic panel on inclusive education, and the goal of the other third panel is also to bring people with lived experiences or disabilities to talk about how they navigated higher education. What extent higher education conscious of the various learning needs and various ways in which people learn, their various disabilities, and how do we factor that into what we do. Just as a means of rounding up before the presenters will present, I want to say that my goal for the third panel is a bigger project that I think will continue to unfold with time. And that is to allow us to think about, for instance, how do we design assessments, class assessments and curriculum for our students? We just assume that all students are ableist, that is, they learn in the dominant and hegemonic ways of learning. How, for instance, as a scholar, would you design a presentation slide without putting in too much of colors that may lead to hypersensitivity for people with certain kind of disability or intellectual deficiencies? These are many other things we'll be looking at in the future panels. But for today, I'll go ahead and introduce Chidima Elueze, and afterward, she'll make a presentation. Then I'll introduce Lucky. Lucky will make his presentation, and then we'll open the floor for question and answer while we wait for Mohamed Akiton, who is the third panelist. So I'll read a short bio of Elueze. Chidima Elueze Teresa is a doctoral student at the Institute of African Studies, University of Ibadan. Chidima's research interests are in women and in international trade, human rights, and gender studies. She teaches international relations, human rights, and African politics at Crawford University, Lusada, Ogun State, Nigeria. She's a fellow of Gracial Michael Trust Leadership and Development Program. She's also a member of Development Studies and the Lagos Studies Association. Over to you, Chidima. We can hear you. Can you unmute yourself? Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Good afternoon on this side of Nigeria. My presentation is on the role of celebrity capital on youth political behavior, the case of Nigerian 2023 elections. So, Dr. Rosemary, can you help me? Let me to be able to share the slides, if that's possible.
Yeah, I think you should be able.
Okay.
It is empowered for all participants to be able to do that.
Okay. Please, just 1 minute. I'm coming.
Are you able to share, Chidima, or would you want me to share the copy you sent to me?
Okay, that would be nice. Thank you.
Okay. I think we should be there. Just tell me when to move.
Okay, thank you. So my paper is it's still work in progress. Okay, so its role on celebrity capital on youth political behavior, the case of Nigerian 2023 election. You can the next slide, please. The next slide. Okay, so that's the outline of my presentation. So basically, the 2023 elections was dubbed a make or mar of the new Nigeria. Okay, and celebrities are esteemed to be culture shapers, opinion makers, and influencers that are believable. Okay, so most times politicians always jostle and hustle for the endorsement and the support of celebrities. Dr. Rosemary, the next slide. Okay. Thank you. So they jostle and hustle for celebrities and endorsement because they believe that they have that capital, that celebrity capital, as it's been coined by Dresden. And in the case of Nigerian, the 2023 election, ushered a new set of group of people, especially the youths, the millennials, and the Gen Zs that were the first time, most of them first time ever voting or participating in any election cycle. However, in this paper, we're going to be, though it's a working paper, I'm still working on it, but we're going to be able to ascertain the influence or the impact of how the celebrities have been able to shape or change or influence the political behavior of the youths. All right, the next slide, please. Okay, so the methodology I used for this paper, I used a mixed method. I used focus group discussion, interviews, and I'm still working on the survey, which is the questionnaire. But this for today's presentation, the data I gleaned for this presentation was basically from the focus group discussions and the interviews. Next slide. So for us to understand, to have a better comprehension about this paper, it's good for us to conceptualize some key terms. So when we talk about celebrity capital, there are different definitions. Okay, so it defines the Cronin and Shaw defines celebrity capital as a accumulation of media visibility, which can result in a symbolic capital. Okay, Dresden supports, defines it as the reconcilability and accumulation of media visibility as a result of recurrent media representation. So for this paper, we can refer celebrity capital as their ability to be recognized, their attention, their visibility, their credibility, and their reliability. So most often than not, the politicians rely on this capital of the celebrities to be able to win elections. But in this context of the paper is how have they been able to use their credibility in terms of reliability, credibility, responsibility, and accountability to change the political behavior of youths. Now, what is political behavior? Political behavior is a study of the way people think, feel, and act as regards to politics. And political behavior is as a result of political socialization and political culture. Now, political socialization is how we have been educated from the family, from the media, from the church, in terms of politics. While political culture, tends to explain the belief of the people in terms of their political culture, in terms of are they subjective, are they parochial, are they participatory? So this culminates to the political behavior of people. The next slide, please. So in terms of youth and Nigerian election, okay, after the 1999 transition to democracy, after a long period of military rule, youths have been relegated in terms of election participating. Youths have had this form of political apathy towards things about politics. They are not interested, and currently they make up 70% of the Nigerian population. And they are confronted with a myriad of socio-economic issues, unemployment, human rights violation, poverty, which has, spurred into different form of, the Japa syndrome, youths migrating out of the country because of the issue of human rights violation, poverty, unemployment, and other vices, other evil vices. Okay, then importantly, in the 2023 election cycle, it was observed that youths made up 76.5% of the 9.5 million fresh applicants of permanent voters cards. Okay, so Dr. Rosemary, please, the next slide. You will find out that the next slide. You will find out that one thing that resulted to this all of a sudden surge of Nigerian youths, being conscious or, going for voters, getting voters card, trying to get involved in politics, was as a result of NSAS. NSAS was a watershed, okay? It was something that increased the youth's consciousness about politics, because, the issue of the violation by police, their human rights being not upheld and protected, awakened that political consciousness. And celebrities, collaborated and supported this protest in October 2020, and it started spurring the interest. The political culture then of the youths were more of apathy, subjective. They were not so engaged in it. But the NSAS, after the lukewarm behavior of the government towards their protests, spurred them to say, okay, in the next election, we'll have an opportunity to change the narrative. Next slide, please. So in terms of celebrity capital and 2023 election, which is the crux of this paper, is that Nigerian 2023 election was once a fierce and decisive was a fierce and decisive ever witnessed since the democratic transition since 1999. During the circle, it was more of people were saying it was a make or mar. Now, celebrities have always been sought after for endorsement and support from political candidates. However, in 2023, it was a different story. It was more of celebrities engaging in educating and creating awareness for youth to participate, get involved for a definite change. Now, celebrities such as P Square, Macaroni, Joker Silva, Funke Akindele, and the host of others openly endorsed their preferred candidates. Celebrity capital of most entertainers, like Nollywood stars, were determined in regards to their political behavior of youth. I want to state something here. According to one of the scholars in the celebrity studies, Harris, he talked about there are two different types of celebrity capital. We have the politician celebrity capital, and we have the entertainer celebrity capital. And the politician celebrity capitals are politicians that have gained this recognition, credibility, accountability, and the attention of the media in influencing the decisions or who gets into power, like the likes of Barack Obama, Tony Blair, Donald Trump, and others. And we have the celebrity entertainers, okay, which is common in the Western world, like the likes of George Clooney and other prominent stars, that they change the outcome of they influence the outcome of election through their followership and their fan base. Now, during the focus group discussion, Dr. Rosemary, please, the next slide. During the focus group discussion, we're able to discuss certain questions about how what was the role. Do you feel the celebrities had an influence in your change of your political behavior into politics, participating in the electoral process? So however, there were some certain findings that I want to highlight. Was that, first of all, during the focus group discussion that I had with some 10 youths, it was split between the Gen Zs and the millennials, and the Gen Zs had different views compared to the millennials in the questions. So, for instance, the question of were you significantly influenced by celebrities in terms of your political attitude and your political beliefs concerning election and the whole politics? And most Gen Zs said yes. And I observed that most Gen Zs are in tune with their I don't want to use the word obsessed. They love their celebrity. So they believe that they are opinion makers and they are role models. So whatever they tell them, whatever they discuss about, they engage in. While most millennials, it was a mixed ball. It was that they asserted that Nigerian celebrities do not have adequate capital to influence political behavior, and their political capital is just building up. It's not as if they have it like the Western world. While others said celebrities' influence is overrated. Then the next finding was that most celebrities that contested in the discussion I had then in the focus group with them, was that the millennials were the ones that said that most of the celebrities that contested during the elections, like the likes of Banky W and Desmond Elliot and Olumide Oworo, they didn't have that their capital enough to influence vote. And they stated that, okay, somebody like Desmond Elliot had to work hard to gain to be re-elected again, and even to apologize for his past mistakes, which the media was able to capture. The next slide, please. Now, the next findings that we know was that it was observed, during the discussion, was that NSAS, okay, highlighted the youth political apathy towards politics changed as a result of NSAS. Okay, not necessarily celebrities, not necessarily that the behavior of the youth towards politics changed as a result of NSAS, not necessarily celebrity capital. Furthermore, the findings from discussion and content analysis from social media platforms I consulted, was that youth esteemed celebrities that supported their preferred candidates, and those that did not support their candidates were trolled or verbally attacked. And we during the election cycle, we noticed it. So it seemed that the youth themselves had their own preferred candidates, that you just wanted the validation of their celebrities, and those that did not support their preferred candidates, especially in the presidential elections, were either attacked or trolled. Okay. Other findings was that it was observed that some of the celebrities, they were not resolute enough in their political convictions and beliefs. During that period of time, and after the elections, we found out a lot of most celebrities were either deleting their comments concerning the election process, and some of them refuse to show up in political campaigns that they have agreed on because of the backlash from youth. Now, another observation was that some celebrities, that I will explain here, was that some celebrities use their craft and platform to educate youth on politics and governance, especially the AY, the comedian. He used his platform to interview most of the candidates, gubernatorial and presidential. Fouls the bad guy. After the election, he released the music. Even before the election, he talked about governance and politics and why youth should be engaged, and he covered the election process, while Mr. Macaroni used some of his skits to talk about the elections. However, with this that they did, invariably it help to build their own credibility, their own celebrity capital. The next slide, please. So the findings, also the other question that I asked was, what was their response, or what they feel, how they feel about popular celebrities that had a larger followership base. Why that some of them were silent, they didn't talk about during the election cycle, talk about politics so much. And most of the response from the group discussion was that they wanted to avoid backlash. Some of them, for branding purposes, they didn't want to their brand to be affected. They wanted to play safe. They wanted to play safe because it played to be diplomatic, because in Nigeria's political climate is very uncertain, and most people did not care. Most of those celebrities that had larger followership base did not care, and their inputs for this respondents said their inputs did not make any difference. Now, in conclusion, okay, we already know that celebrities have been known to legitimize causes, advocate, endorse, and participate in politics. However, in terms of political celebrity capital in Nigeria, it's still in progress and is evolving. So we can't really, it's evolving, it's in progress, it's compared to the Western world. And in the 23 election cycle, the celebrities created excitement, okay, when they were saying, oh, this is who I'm supporting and who I'm not supporting, and all that. It created the needed buzz and excitement during the campaign. However, celebrities have to continually build their reconcilability, their media reputation, trustworthiness, and credibility in socio-economic and political issues in order for them to convert that celebrity capital into impact and influence. And I will say something in addition to that. We hear people like George Clooney, Bono, and others. You find out that their celebrity capital did not just happen all of a sudden. They were always engaging in things of social economic issues and political issues. So they were always getting political media coverage. So it was easier for them to influence. But in the case of Nigerian celebrity, in terms of political behavior for youth, it's an evolving thing. It's still evolving, and in the next, probably the next election cycle, we'll see more engagement from them. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. It's questions that you raise and important points, for instance, about how generation also shape how we the public react to celebrity endorsements of political parties or political candidates. You also raised question about the transferability of social capital, for instance, from their own regular popular culture influence into politics, how that works. Wonderful, thank you. And welcome Mohammed to the panel also. He has joined us, but I will introduce Lucky and then you will present later. But thank you for joining the panel. I'll read the short bio of Lucky and then I will have him make his presentation. Lucky is a young actor and writer, a thought leader. He has acted in Isitembiso. Pardon me if I didn't pronounce that well. Isitembiso, produced by Bomb Production on Nzazi Magic Channel 161. He has featured in Nzazi Magic film called Untando Nedisiki, where he acted on SABC 1. He has performed at the National Theatre in Dekanda for a main program, and is currently affiliated with the University of Wits in South Africa, particularly the School of Arts and African Languages. His research interests include Afrofuturism, myth, history, truth, spirituality, African language, and memory. He will be contributing a chapter to an ongoing project on ongoing policies of casting in Tashasha as a new visual language volume 2 of Culture and Liberation Struggle in South Africa. Also, he has a chapter in progress with Dr. Asing from Rhodes University. And he has also hosted successful symposium in partnership with Wits film and television program at Wits Cinema. Over to you, Lucky, for your presentation.
So much, Dr. I think it's very important that I mentioned that my title for this chapter, right, decolonizing laughter through Facebook, was actually it's a reference to Tepo Wamamadu's master's thesis, at Vets University. So when I was doing undergrad, I came across his master's thesis where he titled his master's thesis "Colonizing Us Through Laughter." So he was actually investigating Leon Schuster's comic comic work. So Leon Schuster is a South African. He's a white South African filmmaker, right? So Tepo accused him of misrepresenting, black people in his films. So my chapter was actually, inspired by, by that idea. Hence, I decolonizing, through Facebook. Also, I need to also, send my apologies for not, because I'm having issues of sharing my slides with you. So please, guys, please, I apologize. My profuse apologies for that. And I actually read this thing from my laptop, typical like an actor. Okay, so comedy is often used to reflect the society's behavior towards important issues that are being positioned on the periphery. This chapter will investigate the manner in which BW in Botswana uses comedy to highlight issues that are often not regarded as cool and often exist on the margins, right? What one society finds humorous often creates boredom or indifference in another. So this is a citation from McGowan, 17, page 3. Donald W's approach to the art form of comedy on Facebook is unconventional and exists outside the dominant ideas and boundaries of the Western conception of comic art form. That became famous on Facebook as the South African public audience and was in Botswana. So I argue that Donald W's skillful use of comedy through Setswana language on Facebook disrupts these hegemonic notions of what it means to laugh and what it means to think through issues that are addressed by comedy. Therefore, decolonizes laughter through Setswana language. One observes that this decentering of comic art from a Setswana indigenous psychology. So if according to Spivak's suggestion that the subaltern cannot speak, then that can make us laugh. The subaltern is a Facebook celebrity that makes the African continent laugh. Donna BW draws our attention on the issues affecting the African continent, such as pandemics, poverty, inequalities, etc., and so forth. So now quickly go to the political economy. So the background in which Donna BW produced his comic videos, right, on Facebook. So it is vitally important to provide the background and context within which W produced his Facebook videos. Similarly important, it is befitting to give a background of who Donna BW is. Donna BW's names are Isang. He comes from a village called Dihana in Botswana. Through my research online, asking my friends from Botswana who now live in South Africa, it is not clear when Donna BW was born. So artistic forms of various kinds are produced in a particular context and received a particular context to create meaning. This means that Donna BW created his own comic videos on Facebook that were able to be received in South Africa and therefore participated in meaning-making events. So Donna BW is a young comedian who became famous as a result of things, funny videos on Facebook during the hard lockdown in Botswana. Even though he knew that he was a talented comedian, young man said he did not think he would pursue comedy as a career. However, in January this year, he decided to test waters and share his talent with the world on social media, only to get a positive outcome in a short period of time. So this is a citation from his interview that he did with Michi. Michi is a local, Botswana newspaper. So dated 2020, 13th of November. South Africa and Botswana were under hard lockdown because of the COVID-19 pandemic. There were strict measures that were imposed by the South African government and Botswana government upon citizens, respectively. For an example, he said he planned to host stand-up comedy shows twice, but he did not succeed due to lockdowns. So this is another citation from Michi local paper in Botswana that he did. So from a research point of view, there is not much information that you can find online about Donna BW besides the interview he did with a local Botswana neighbor called Michi, which I cited above. This is not surprising because Botswana does a reputation of importing famous people and celebrities like their Nigerian and South African counterparts. However, there is a relative number of a very few famous artists who are known in South Africa, such as traditional music group called Culture Spears and Maausi. Culture Spears was in South Africa between the years 2000 and 2013, famous outside the context of social media, of course. So this group was able to achieve fame through high rotation on radio on SABC's FM. So SABC is an acronym for the South African Broadcasting Corporation. So I'm now gonna briefly go to a synopsis of my selected Facebook video that I came across on Facebook of Donna BW. It should be noted that I do not have the privilege of time and space to offer an analysis of all Donna BW's Facebook videos in this chapter. I'm going to an analysis of 1 to 3 videos from his Facebook page line. I should also caution the reader that it is a very challenging task to explain and define comic moments of my selected videos as a site to demonstrate the argument. However, at the basic level, what is less challenging is that we can all agree that comedy carries humor. We often think of comedy as absurdity. We look at what is nonsensical. So I'm citing McGowan 2017, page 101. So the first video that Donna posted on his Facebook page on the 30th of October 2022 has 1 million views. Is titled Homa Sokudi. This is a title. Sokudi Helen means it's bad in hell. So in the first part of the video, Donna BW, tells his friend about his girlfriend who was sleeping on his chest. So Donna BW says to his friend that suddenly wakes up to tell him that she had a dream, a bad dream, that she was in hell. So in this dream, the devil or Satan was sharpening his knife using her cheek, right? So Katleho then leaves Donna BW in a rush and shuts the door. Later in the evening, Katleho, his girlfriend, comes back with her parents who accuse Donna BW of gender-based violence as a result of Katleho's cheek being stolen from the dream, right? So Donna BW later realizes that no, this is because of him being a skinny guy and having like his ribs that made Katleho's cheek. So the parents made them broke up with immediate effect until the ultimatum was that Donna BW must go and eat some more and just like gain weight so that their daughter should stop continue having like these dreams about the devil and Satan. And then the second part of the video of that I consulted with Donna BW's friend, asked him if he's not afraid of the devil, right, Satan. Then Donna BW's response, he says that these days the devil or Satan is no longer dangerous like before. He is weak. The priest had told him that it's been 2 weeks that Satan is sick and his health is deteriorating as a result of the coronavirus. So he's been quarantined in a corner somewhere in hell, and everyone there is celebrating. They're having like a big party in hell, right? So in my observation, I'm interested in how Donna BW plays with idea around absence, right? The idea of evil as an absence, a phenomenon, as something that's abstract, right? So for me, this is what's more interesting about his body of work. So right now I'm gonna quickly go to my theoretical framework, right? I'm gonna jump to my theoretical framework. So this chapter has identified decoloniality and power and identity theories that will be applied in investigating Donna BW's Facebook videos. So these two theories are befitting in this chapter because they locate and link Donna BW within a specific geopolitical location, and i.e. Southern Africa in Botswana. Coloniality theory, Ndlovu Kacheni begins his essay by stating that he begins his essay by stating a detailed term of the impact of colonialism on the African and dismisses the claims that consider colonialism as a mere episode of African history. So according to Kacheni 2015, decoloniality is not the same as anti-colonialism. Anti-colonialism was largely an elite-driven project in which elites mobilized peasants and workers as foot soldiers in a struggle to replace direct colonial administrators. So this is a direct citation from Ndlovu Kacheni 2015, page 488. So decoloniality refers to the total destruction of colonial structure that continued to maintain power. By coloniality, it is meant here the dismantling of relations of power and conceptions of knowledge that foment the reproduction of racial, gender, geopolitical hierarchies that came into being or found new and more powerful forms of expression in modern colonial world. So I'm citing Maldo in Ndlovu Kacheni 2015, page 488. So I'm interested in how Donna BW dismantles the power of colonial laughter to create new ways of laughter through Facebook. Decoloniality was born at the moment slave trade, imperialism, colonialism were practiced. Therefore, decoloniality developed in a form of resistance, thought, and action. Additionally, a decolonial movement inherited forms and terms such as Ethiopianism, Nativism, negritude, and Pan-Africanism, and Pan-African socialism, African humanism, Black conscious movement, and Renaissance. So I was paraphrasing Donaldo Torres in the 2015, 108. So decolonialism was originally conceptualized in ex-colonized epistemic sites such as Latin America, Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. As such, this is a direct quotation. As such, to make sense of the position of the ex-colonized peoples within the Euro-American-centric, Christian-centric, patriarchal, capitalist, heteronormative, and modern world in the 15th century. Mignolo quoted in Ndlovu Kacheni 2015, page 489. So I'm also gonna quickly move to my next theory, right? Because in the interest of time. So relation to power and identity, the paper further draws from the scholarship the stereotypes for social transformation. So here, my observation is that we use typology or stereotypes, to make, to generate the idea of, humor and laughing and sarcasm, right? So this is the importance of this theory. So the importance of this scholarship is that Donna BW uses stereotype to create his videos. Syndic and Barreto and Lopez 2015 proposes that stereotypes can be used to transform and change the society. Syndic, Barreto, and Lopez 2015 vehemently argued that stereotypes have not been considered in social psychological research to challenge and combat social systems. Therefore, Syndic, Barreto, and Costa Lopez 2015 maintain that stereotypes can play a very crucial role in mobilizing in-group members and collective projects aimed at transforming social systems. I'm gonna quickly go to the part where I mentioned Donna Boy's stereotype. So, for an example, right, the stereotype of a in a video that I consulted with, right, the stereotype of a romantic couple, right, in this comic video where he's expected to take care of his girlfriend, Katlego, right? This is a social structure of performing comedy from in his society. As such, this portion of literature review is important because it helps this chapter to observe how stereotypical community structure were used in various arts disciplines, politics, and sports, social transformation. Therefore, the deployment of typology or stereotypes in Donna BW's comic language will be investigated. The chapter is interested in how Donna BW uses stereotypes on Facebook in a manner that decolonizes laughter, right? I'm gonna quickly also mention my research methodology, right? So my research methodology, I've employed textual analysis, right, where I was just watching, and posting on BW's Facebook. So I had like a schedule of viewing his Facebook like once a week, like monthly, weekly. So this is the textual analysis is imperative in study because it investigates themes, hidden messages, the use of verbal, visual languages, as well as presentation of science, right? So yeah, and then quickly, the last one is viewing and transcribing. So in the interest of time, I'm gonna here. So also, this is a work. I think it's important that I should make this a work in progress. So I'm still going through my textual analysis of Donna BW's comic videos. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucky. Your work is so theoretically rich, full of so many ideas that I can begin to take one after the other. But, when you're talking about how the comedian was actually using indigenous language as against, English language, I began to think about Bell Hooks' idea about language as a very place of struggle and the need not to speak in the language of the oppressor, rather, to move the margins of language in the place where it challenges, dominant hegemonic views. And that's also interesting, your ideas about coloniality. Anibaki Kano was running through my mind and several other decolonial scholars. Very enriching theoretically and also analytically. So thank you so much for that presentation. We'll move to the final presenter for today, Mohamed Akiton. I don't want to go into the controversy about new cats and new thing on the blog, but I want to tell you that Akiton is one of the people to look out for in celebrity or politics of attention studies. I tried to grab his bio from his LinkedIn page, which may not be accurate, or maybe he has since advanced beyond that, but I'll just read a snippet of it and then hand over the virtual floor for his presentation. Akiton is a PhD student at the Department of Sociology, University of Cambridge. His research situates itself in the cluster of technology and society with attention to the politics of knowledge production in Africa, using Nigeria as a case study. Specifically is concerned with the forms of symbolic capital built through digital activism by human rights activists and influencers. As such, his research explores digital activism through frameworks such as social media domestication, reputation management, media-mediated witnessing, digital affordance, civil sphere, and citizen journalism by examining how they interplay with power, participation, and social media influence. Over to you, Akiton, to make your presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Rosemary, for the kind and warm introduction. The earlier presenters have really made it grand, and I can only hope that I meet up the standard. So I'll share my screen now. Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen and can hear me well. Can everyone see my screen and hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right, thank you. So the title of my presentation is Retweet is a Drug, Effective Practices of Building Influence by Nigerian Twitter Celebrities. And I adapted this quote from one of my interviews with one of my participants, where he described the idea of getting attraction or getting attention online as a kind of drug in the sense that when you have it once, you want to keep it going. So when you have these attention once, you always want to keep it going. And then how do you keep it going? That's the question I'm trying to address in this presentation. How have these Twitter celebrities or Twitter influencers get this attention going? And it's these practices that I try to explore in my presentation. So my outline is that I'll firstly make an introduction to the research and to the work itself. My theoretical consideration, which is about affect and online influence, the methods through which I've used to collect data, and then I would explore the specific practices. I examine 4 of these practices: massing, retweet groups, niche building, and aspiring relational labor. Then I also consider the flip coin of influence in itself, psychic income and some other things. And then I'll conclude. So, well, in this paper or in this presentation, I would say what I've tried to do is to place affective labor and identity entrepreneurship at the core of influential entrepreneurship, to explain how they build influence. As I've mentioned earlier on, I'm trying to address the question of how do Twitter celebrities or Twitter influencers, how do they sustain the attention they get? How do they even build it in the first place? And then, so I consider the idea of affective labor appropriate to addressing these questions. Twitter celebrity influencers entrepreneurship inks on relevance, especially on Twitter, which differs from other social media platforms. So I explained that beyond the economic goals that we can see from influential entrepreneurship, they also exhibit technical, cultural, and social and affective skills to maintain these visibilities. And these processes show that they establish meaningful relationship with their followers and show young people creative and innovation in digital economy. How does this speak to the theme of the conference, of the LSA conference at large? Well, I think it shows how people without any form of capital before, or people that can be considered subalterns, try to create a voice for themselves in a place where they are voiceless, or on a platform where they are voiceless. And it is these processes that I feel it is this kind of processes, addressing this kind of processes, I feel is important to show how people who have been seen to be voiceless, how they've created voice for themselves through different practices online. I'm using Twitter as a case study, and I'm looking at the celebrity influencers as an example. So my theoretical consideration, as you may predict from what I've been saying, is using the use of the idea of affect and online influence. And then I'm looking at how affect basically refers to that kind of work that seeks to emanate a kind of it seems to generate a kind of emotional appeal from people, and this is really at the core of generating attention online or generating recognition for Twitter celebrities in Nigeria. Scholars generally agree that individual social and role identity provides opportunity to grasp their influence within social groups, and how their behaviors are shaped through this process. So, for examples, with my conversation with some of these influencers, they've told me how as simple as profile pictures can generate affect. A profile picture in itself can generate affect. It may even be just their body physique. It can be anything that shows a direct relationship between them and their identity online. These are kind of things that can show that's it's used to generate this emotional appeal. So essentially, I'm seeing that there is a use value to Twitter influencers' identities. Whilst you may see corporate brands easily identifiable to their trademarks, copyrights, or logos, Twitter influencers are identified through their online social face, which has been built over time through the idea of affect. So how have I collected my data? Basically, it's been through a process called ethnography. I've tried, it's kind of an online ethnography, studying them online, and also through my in-depth interviews with them. The graph here shows the how the extent to which the influencers I spoke to come from. Some are from the North Central states, Kano, so Northwest to North Central, Kano, and FCT. Then most of them are actually from Southwestern Nigeria, Oyo State, Lagos, and I also spoke to a number of them from the south part. In all, I spoke to about 15 influencers and 20 totally, if I include the corporate organizations and media organizations that I spoke to, and the followers themselves that I also did a survey on. So I think this shows kind of a broad range of how the influencers I spoke to. However, I'm not trying to say that my study is comprehensive enough to make a judgment that whatever is applicable to them is applicable to all Twitter influencers and celebrities in Nigeria. No, but I'm just trying to show how to the extent to which I spread my tentacles to speaking with Twitter influencers. So yes, I've mentioned it, which is a drug, and the idea of how I came across this quote was from one of my participants who was saying that the idea that you want to keep the attention, to sustain that attention, the idea that you want to sustain it makes them involved in certain practices. So now I would now go in-depthly into what exactly are those practices. So one of them is massing, and massing is basically a growth hack that shows that means that the more they follow people, or the more Twitter, especially at the start of the building of their profile, to online profiles, the more they follow people, the more they get followers. And it's not just them telling me this in their interviews. I have also done a kind of a visualization of their Twitter growth online. I exported this. I have an Twitter academic profile with Twitter. I exported this through Python to visualize them into this. And then what I've discovered that, for instance, one of okay, so let me say something at this point. So the way I've described my participants, I do not use KII, or I did not use, so I actually give them names. So if you see something like Twitter Analytical History for Strategists, so strategist is a name that I've given one of my participants, judging from what they've told me. So you would see strategist, you would see SIDA, you would see satirist and all of that. So I've attributed a certain name in a way to anonymize my participants, but also in a way to show the kind of affective appeal that they use to generate, or that they use to build their influence. So don't be too distracted by like strategists or the words that you see. It's only a way for me to anonymize them, and also show how I've conceived them through my conversation with them and my study of them. So if you look at as at February 2018, they were following let's say below 10,000 people. They had roughly about that 10,000 people. When their followership came down in March 2018, their followership also began to decline when they follow. So the purple shows the people they follow, the rate at which they follow people, and then the red shows the number of followers they get. Basically, what this strategy means is that the more they follow people, the more likely followers they gain followers. And that's one strategy that they've used to build followership online. This is always a very basic kind of start for them. It's not key, and not all of them indulge in this, but it's one of the practices that they engage with. And so you could see that there is this in July 2018, the more when they began to follow as much as 30,000 to 40,000. Anyway, this does not mean that they follow 30,000 people, but what this means is that when they follow more people, their followership increased to like 30,000. It does not mean that they followed 30,000 people at the same time. It just means that when their followership increased to 40, their following increased to 40,000, their followership also increased simultaneously. And then you would see, interestingly, that it gets to a certain point where, so you can see that this is Twitter analytics history for charismatic. Charismatic is just another way I've described one of my participants. So instead of using numbers or using KIs or IDIs, I've decided to use these particular words to describe my participants. So it may start from this point where they follow people and they also get more followers, but it also gets to a certain point where they just more or less retain the same number of followers over time. And this is, at this point, they've really become well recognized and celebrities in quotes. So they regardless of the way they follow people with this popular, you see it's relatively stable from July 2018 to like January 2022, but yet their followers have increased and declined and increased and declined over time. And then that's how it continues to be. So even though some of them start by following more people and all, it gets to a certain point where they don't need to do that, and it just, their followers just keeps increasing or declines, given Twitter algorithms and all. So this is just one strategy through which Twitter celebrities or influencers build their followership online. Secondly, they also join retweet groups, pods, or lobs. Usually this is just like a certain kind of people coming together to intentionally engage in each other's posts in order for them to increase their visibility. And then the screenshots on the left-hand side here, it's just this from Telegram, this is from Twitter itself. It's just like, it's called deck, it's called Twitter groups or retweet exchange groups, where they come to this group, they drop in their tweets, and then they tell other people to engage in it. And by doing so, it's kind of artificially increases their visibility online. And this is just one of the ways through which they've used to generate or get more audience. I also discovered that with the advent of Twitter audio space, they've also been able to generate or develop a kind of strategy around that. So what this means is that this screenshot is showing that this is an online space. Actually, it is live, it is online, there are people there, and what they do is that they tell each of them to follow each of them or engage in their tweets in order just to boost their visibility online. Some other times they on the notifications of some other Twitter celebrities in order to be directly notified when someone has posted something for them to engage in. So this is also another kind of strategy through which they use to build their followership online and in the bid to become a celebrity influencer. Through niche building too, is also another way. So it's not just about gaining visibility. The question is also about what exactly are they reading on your profile? What exactly is your content about? What are you talking about? And they've described this as niches. Niches is basically just a kind of focused area of content creation. It could be on health, it could be on sports, it could be on politics, civic discourse, education, lifestyle, science, and technology, whatever. But the idea is that when you talk about someone, you remember that they're always talking about health. And that way they've kind of built a niche around that idea. And so it makes them, you make them more identifiable to a particular brand. And I've discovered that they do this in two ways. They either cut across multiple fields, or some of them just stick to one field, and deepen their expertise in that particular field. One of my participants, whom I called Chronicler, I call her Chronicler because she tells stories, and that's a niche online. She just tries to give chronicles of different stories that are probably personal to her, or maybe not, but telling these stories is one way through which she has built a niche. So niche building is also another method through which, or a kind of another strategy through which Twitter influencers gain visibility online. Lastly, I see something as aspiring relational labor, which is actually a concept that has been well established in the literature. It's a practice where followers are built by forming relationship with established influencers or celebrities. And I've seen this play out amongst Twitter celebrities in two ways. One is that it could be offline network. So it could be that someone knows an influencer offline without even knowing them online. They already know them offline. And through that, they've sought to like build a kind of relationship with them and transfer that network online such that they begin to engage with that particular influencer online. And through that, the followers of that influencer recognizes them and they become also visible. Or it could also be the other way around. It could also be that influencers, networks that have been built online are transferred offline. And usually what happens is that through this, it might be by attending events, attending network meetings, attending parties, or just meeting up offline in order to sustain and build this relationship. So there is always this network of offline, online networks amongst celebrities or amongst individuals on Twitter in order to build this visibility. It could be from online to offline, or it could be from offline to online, but it is always a relational labor. It is always it's always a kind of a symbiotic labor or a symbiotic relationship through which each person hopes to leverage on the followership of the other, either offline or online. However, I also discovered that it goes beyond just generating this influence online. I've also spoke with some participants through which that the idea of building influence online is just about the idea of building influence online is just about it's just for the sake of that psychic income. It's not for anything that's to do with material benefit. And I find that really interesting because when I set out on my research, my idea was so economic in nature. I was really particular about how this has translated to economic gains for them. But I find it interesting that some individuals are not even interested in the material benefit at all. They just want to have that visibility online and have that recognition with no, and I described it as a psychic income. And I find that really interesting. I've tried to visualize that in the next graph here. So you would see for this particular person, I describe him as ubiquitous. He's always all over, and then he's not necessarily interested in the material benefit of influencership or celebrity status, which I find really interesting because there are two instances where, apart from what he has told me, I'm able to also substantiate this by visualizing this total account growth. And I find it interesting here. Generally, this particular period was at the start of the COVID pandemic. And this was a period where a lot of celebrities, skit makers, the old, even to the extent of Funke Akindele not recognizing lockdown rules and all of that was really a thing. And this particular influencer was really at the forefront of raising concerns about celebrities not adhering to lockdown rules and not following particular healthcare procedures. So it's not just the person being at the forefront, but their followership also absolutely increased. So what this means is that the more...
More, please.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'm almost rounding off. Thank you. The more they try to make themselves visible by making social political commentaries, the more their followership increase. And I find that really interesting because they are not necessarily interested in whatever material benefit might come from this, but just the visibility, just the psychic income that is attached to that. In addition, it's also not just rosy for them. They are sometimes forced to choose between engaging in affective labor and self-surveillance. Some participants tell me they have to choose between changing their profile picture, which is almost like their symbol or their logo online for certain brands, and yeah, choosing between changing that to replace it with certain brands for a particular campaign, and them not doing that just because they think their profile picture is way more important than getting paid by a certain brand to change their profile picture. I find out really interesting. Also I also discovered some gender complexities, especially so it's easy for women or for ladies or to build or to kind of gain this attention online, but I discovered that it was also difficult for them to be at the top of the food chain. So even when it seems to be that a lot of females could easily generate recognition or visibility, they were not necessarily, that does not necessarily mean they get more campaigns or they get more economic benefits. It's always ends up being most men at the top of the food chain, and even though they might not be able to easily develop visibility online, which is very interesting dynamic that I discovered in my research. Also, I also discovered some geographic disparities, particularly because of the wide range of people that I spoke to across Nigeria. They would also lose influence for different reasons. Their account may get suspended mostly, and this is a tweet from one of a kind of a celebrity influencer online saying, if you've lost your Twitter account and then you come back and you still maintain relevance, it means you can consider yourself influencer with a full chest. So he has lost his Twitter account 6 times and he has been able to maintain his influence or like that capital online each time he comes back. And then it's also considered as a way through which you can establish that, yeah, truly you are an influencer and you have this visibility online. So basically what I've tried to do in this presentation, in this paper, is that I've tried to explore the ways through which so-called voiceless people, ordinary Nigerians, have tried to create a voice for themselves online, and then particularly by engaging with the idea of affective labor, and I think this contributes in a new way in the idea of understanding audience online in the African literature or in the African literature, understanding audience online, how people devise different means to create this voice for themselves and establish this celebrity status using Twitter as a case study. So I think it's always better to look at these processes, these practices, rather than looking at the opportunities or the challenges. Yeah, so thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I never stop telling people that, you know, there's so much to do in celebrities. I wonder if you've ever seen anyone apply so much rigor, graphs, and, you know, charts to help you understand the politics and the economics of attention. And so currently there's a debate in Nigeria who is the new cats and the new that. You agree with me that he's not a cat, he's a king of politics, of economics of attention. Thank you, Mohammed. I will not spend much time on commenting, rather I'll open the floor to our live audience and also online audience to ask their questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take questions both online and offline. I wonder if there's anyone over there to moderate for me, the live audience and also the online.
Okay.
I may not be able to take live questions, so if you could, I mean questions from people here on Zoom, but I can, of course, do that via chat. Okay, so let's go.
Okay, I have a question in the live. My question is for Mr. Mohammed Alakito. Thank you very much for your presentation. This is the second time I've been listening to you in this conference, first at the workshop, then now. So my question is, why did you choose Twitter and probably not Instagram? Because I'm interested in Instagram and I'm wondering, do you feel Twitter has more of the engagement for you or, you know, something around that?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a methodological question. Thank you very much. To be honest with you, sometimes our biases come in play in choosing our sample size or in choosing our case studies, and I would not deny that. So but I think more importantly, it's because most studies on Twitter, and when it comes to like Twitter studies and online influence, it has always been about, as I said in my presentation, it has always been about the social political commentaries, the opportunities and the challenges. And I really wanted to explore the practices in itself. I really wanted to engage with the idea of how does this influence even come into play? Yes, I could have also done that on Instagram. In fact, I remember my very first conversation with my because this was a master's research, and my conversation with my master's supervisor, and then she was saying, even though it might be ambitious, but you could also look at Instagram because a celebrity idea is also well stated there. And so the reason, maybe in short, the reason why Twitter particularly is because on Twitter, it's you need to engage in those practices really well to be able to gain that influence. On Instagram, it's more personalized. You have a personal page. People come to that page to kind of comment, like your post. You can block them if you don't want them to. But on Twitter, it's so vast. On Twitter, other people have to actually come to your page to comment, not necessarily follow you, but they have to come and comment. So the celebrity status on Instagram, to me, it looks kind of established. Like it's kind of, you have your page to yourself and then you are developing that page. But on Twitter, it's vast. You have to be engaging, like different things come into play. So those different things that come into play are really what caught my attention. So to give a recap, yes, my bias that I am more conversant with Twitter, although I'm also conversant with Instagram, yeah, came into play in choosing my case study. But more importantly, it was the curiosity of how does Twitter in itself react, comes in a different way, or establish itself in a different way to other social media platforms. That's what led to me using Twitter as a case study. But I know it can be replicated across any other social media platform.
Okay, any other question? I'm happy to take questions via the chat, and I wonder if the control room can make the chat box active so people can also ask via their medium. Any other question from live audience? Very interesting conversations. But I also wonder if any of all the panelists could go one after the other and sort of talk about what methodological challenges comes with researching celebrities, given the fact that it's still in many ways a nascent field, particularly in Nigeria or even Africa broadly. Most of the time we have to borrow methodologies or sometimes even theoretical framework and even a conceptual framework from, context that may quite be different from where we're coming from. I recall making a post some time ago about decolonizing the idea of a celebrity or even fame itself. So when Chinua Achebe wrote that the fame of Okonkwo spread like, wildfire, in their matan, he was simply talking about virality, how things go viral and all of that. But the fact that it doesn't coin it in that language doesn't take it outside of, that sort of theoretical leaning. So let's go around the room and hear your thoughts about what conceptual methodological challenges you have to deal with in your research, and then hopefully by then we can get more questions to respond to.
There is a question on chat of Q&A.
Okay, let's have that, and then we can go around the room.
Okay, I will just read it. It says, interest from Abubakar Muhammad. Interesting paper, Muhammad. You talked about visibility and virality, all key features of the attention economy. Given that some of these influencers could ignore material benefits in favor of visibility and Twitter influence, I am thinking about the ethical dimension, safety, and danger of digital life. Do you think influencers consider these issues while practicing these performances? Is directed to Mohammed.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question, Abubakar. It's really interesting. Although I don't know, maybe I would unpack it in two ways, because the ethical dimension seems to me different, an entire different conversation to the precarities that influencers might come across. I'm actually presenting on the precarities of influential entrepreneurship in the forthcoming ISA. ISA is International Sociological Association conference next week. So the title of that paper is The Precarities. So I specifically dealt with the precarities that comes with it. But I would separate that to the ethical dimension, except you want to explain what you mean by ethical dimension again. So the way I consider the ethical dimension is basically, especially because my personality as an influencer, I'm me researching popular people. So how do I anonymize popular people in my research? So that's the way I interpret those ethical complexities, when you're researching or trying to get data online, particularly on social media, and then you're also getting it from people that are actually popular. How do you retain their anonymity? Maybe that's the way I've interpreted the ethical dimension. But if you mean something else, please let me know. And one of the ways through my paper is like I've tried to not just anonymize them, but give them particular names in the way I understand them. I said chronicler. I said I used different things. Strategists. I used charismatic and all of that. And those are one of the ways that I've tried to ethically deal with the idea of anonymizing my participants in public space. Then maybe you're also thinking, or maybe you're also saying ethical dimension in terms of getting data online and getting the consent of those that I'm researching. And I want to say that each of the data that I presented there, each of my participants saw every data that I presented, and they were happy with it. In fact, they were really happy to even talk more about the highs and lows of why their followership had increased and reduced. So their consent was sought before, during, and even after my research. And then maybe that's another way you're asking. And then maybe one other thing that has to do with the ethical dimension is also my positionality. A Nigerian active on Twitter, researching influencers, then it's really important I consider my position in line with that. And what method I've used is this out-group, in-group conversation, particularly from the feminist the feminist co-constructive knowledge approach. So what I've done is that I didn't just lead the conversation with my participants. I made them interpret the data that I've seen primarily and use their voice. So most of what I'm saying is actually their voice. It's the massing. I did not know about it until they told me, the whole retreat groups until they told me. So it's their voice that I'm presenting, and that's another way I've tried to approach my position in relation to my participants. No, that's how I would address the ethical dimension. But when it comes to the precarities in itself, I can go on and on about the precarities that may come to influencers in themselves. They are aware of it. If that's your question, they are aware of it, and they've actually experienced some of it. But it's a paper on its own that I've tried to, and questions on its own that I've tried to address somewhere else. But just to say, it includes algorithm, precarities includes algorithm bias. It includes even harm by the Nigerian states or by some institutions that are not happy with what they do online. So it includes physical harm. There are gender disparities in terms of the work that comes to them and one that does not come with them. I've also mentioned in here the kind of geographic disparity that can also happen because you live somewhere in the northern part of Nigeria. Some opportunities are not available to you, unlike those in the southern part of Nigeria. Those are also some precarities that come to it. One particular one that I explore in that paper is ban. Ban includes the Nigerian government Twitter ban and Twitter banning influencers themselves for different reasons. That, some of them say because, well, they're probably gaining some money online that should have gone to Twitter and all of that. So that's how I would address your questions, Abubakar. But if you need more explanation, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your very detailed comments. I wonder if there's other question we can respond to. And I also want to keep it in your view that this is just part one of the panel. It continues tomorrow at 12:45 Nigerian time, and I'll be happy to see everyone here.
My question is to Lucky Nkoboli, decolonizing laughter through Facebook. At times, I get confused with the definition of decolonizing or decolonize. I don't know. I want the speaker, Lucky Koboli, to explain further. Maybe I missed it during his presentation. The comedian who he mentioned in his paper was making people to laugh using indigenous language, using the local language on Facebook. But I begin to wonder, the Facebook, is it an indigenous technology? The jokes, are they meant for the colonialists, or are they meant for the local people, the indigenous people? Because if we are able to determine that, that will now make us know the extent of which these jokes can go. Who is it directed to? Is it making funny of those people, or making funny jest of the indigenous people? So if you are decolonizing and you are still, this process is still based on the foreign technology or equipment, then how can we reconcile? That is my question.
Okay, we'll see if Lucky is able to join us. I think there's a little bit of a technical issue, but Lucky, are you able to answer?
Yes, can I answer via audio, because now I'm seated in the dark due to...
I'm sure it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so by decoloniality, I was, referring to, so decoloniality here doesn't mean, anti-colonialism, right? So here it means we're moving away from, the hegemonic, forms of what it means to be an artist, what it means to be a comedian, right? So it means, a comedian or an artist using, like drawing from their own, culture, drawing from their own, traditions, from, orality, so in the context of, post-colonial Africa, in the context of, modernity, in the context of, global, in the context of international global, capitalism, right? So I'm referring to the countries that, that experienced colonialism, right? So in this case, this is the global South, right? So this is Russia, this is Africa, this is, Asian countries, right? So going back to the issue of, to your question in relation to the language, right? So he's using Setswana language, right? Group of the Muslims, right? So in Southern Africa, it's like it's classified under Sotho Tswana languages, right? So in South Africa, we have the Nguni languages, which is part of the Xhosas and the Tswanas, no, the Xhosas and the Zulus, right? So under the Sotho languages, you have Setswana, Sepedi, and South Sotho, right? So he makes jokes about people who understand, the cultural nuances of what it means to be a Motswana artist in Southern Africa, right? So he makes jokes about things that we can identify with. So he's a his comic Facebooks, his comic Facebook, videos are directed at the poor working class in South Africa and in Botswana. So his art resonates with the ordinary man in the street, right? So it's like a pedestrian kind of thought, pedestrian thinking, right? So he makes us, so we are aware that humor or comedy, it's actually is not only a privilege of the current ruling class in South Africa and in Botswana, right? So comedy is for everyone, we can all laugh. So he differs from Trevor Noah, he differs from Kevin Hart or Chris Rock in America. So he exists outside that context, right? So it's Setswana. And then, so part of my argument, of course, is that, he also privileges, Setswana, psychology, because, and in South Africa, we don't have famous, or in Botswana, we don't have famous, Tswana comedians, right? So that's that. So yeah, so that's that. So also using Facebook does not mean you are a less Motswana or you are less African, right? It's how you use it, right? How and what are you saying about that? So for me, he he makes me wonder or ask me, like I ask myself questions around the relationship between comedy and philosophy, right? Like the power dimensions, right? What is that relationship between comedy or comic philosophy or philosophical comedy, right? So I'm thinking around this kind of ideas, like the relationship between power relations, right? So that's that. So I hope I was able to answer you. I don't know if you have, if there's something that you don't understand, please get back to me. So yeah, that's hence the idea of a subaltern, comedian. So he's not recognized by mainstream media in South Africa, where these famous South African comedians or Botswana artists are. Behind them, you have this big machinery, this oil machinery of, you have magazines, they have interviews on TV, they have, radio like those kind of things, right? So hence he's on the periphery. He's not in the center because he speaks his honor. Understand? So yeah, that's that.
Thank you, Lucky, for that detailed explanation. We have 2 more minutes before they kick us out. I want to appreciate everyone who is part of this panel. The conversation continues tomorrow, and I hope to see everyone. I want to give a special shout out to my mother. I am orphan, and so I decided to adopt a new mother in Professor Kali Kotsile. We are still finalizing the papers. The papers will be done the next time she's in the United States. We'll finalize the papers about that so I can begin to get my allowances for the month. But on that note, thank you everyone for participating, and I will see you tomorrow in the part 2 of this panel on the fringes of fame, subalterns and celebrities in Africa. Thank you so much, Lagos Studies Association, for offering us this panel to meet both virtually and also in person. Thank you everyone for coming, and I will see you tomorrow. And don't forget other interesting panels too that are available to you. And special shout out to my younger brother who is also volunteering, Johnson Abiola Moses. Love you, we've not seen for about 2 years or so, but I'm happy to see you here. And so I'll see everyone tomorrow again for part two of our panel. Do have a wonderful evening enjoying the food at Lagos Studies Association. Bye everyone for now.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Professor Ajayi Owolowo and my friend Shola Daniels from California. I'm glad to see everyone, and I'll see you all again tomorrow.